My daughter went for her daily run the next day. They found her badly beaten, strangled. She was raped, and she was stuffed into a drain pipe.
Did you take the opportunity to view the body?
It was just really very hard to see her and to know what's actually happened to her. He's accused of committing a murder in his home country.
And committed multiple crimes once he was here.
11, 12, 13-year-old children are dying, and it's happening in every state.
Tonight, a deeper look at the reality of our country's border crisis. President-elect Trump plans to completely reshape the nation's immigration laws. Trump reportedly plans to zero in and focus on deporting immigrants who are committing crimes in this country. The issue of migrant crime has been one hot-button issue, with high-profile cases of U.S. citizens allegedly attacked and murdered by illegal immigrants taking center stage.
We have terrorists, we have violent criminals coming across the southern border who are raping and murdering Americans. Where is the justice for Rachel Morin? Where is the justice for Laken Riley?
Before Riley's murder, Ibarra had been arrested and released twice in the U.S., once when he was accused of crossing the border illegally in 2022, and then in New York City last year, when he was charged with acting in a manner to injure a child under 17.
Every fentanyl death in this country, that came across the southwest border, that's fueling the cartel. They have so much cash, and we're just giving them more right now.
The New York City Police Department says that the theft in this video is connected to a citywide robbery pattern. At least 7 migrants were arrested after a search warrant was executed at a home in the Bronx. NYPD says the suspects are a part of a criminal enterprise.
They say that the borders are safe. We live 1,800 miles away from the southern border. They're not safe. They're not safe. If you have a sanctuary city in your state, you're not safe.
I sat down with Tom Homan, the former acting ICE director and President-elect Donald Trump's border czar pick. He says he has a concrete plan for the incoming administration's effort to mass deport illegal immigrants.
Large deportations. We're going to get these people out.
What we're not going to do is support deploying the 101st Airborne into American cities to pull 10-year-old kids out of their classrooms in handcuffs.
Trump's been clear, we're going to prioritize public safety threats and national security threats first because they pose the most danger to this nation. Day one, we're going to be looking for these public safety threats, arresting them, detaining them, and deporting them. And if these sanctuary city mayors don't want to help, then get the hell out of the way because we're coming. We're doing it.
Venezuela, mamá. Venezuela? Sí. ¿Qué tantos años tienes? Dos años?
Thank God she's alive, because too many of these young people perish. I don't know who put a 2-year-old in the hands of a criminal cartel to be smuggled across the border. It's so dangerous. I've seen so many tragedies in my lifetime. I've talked to young girls as young as 9 that were raped multiple times by members of the cartel. I stood in back of a tractor trailer with 19 dead aliens at my feet, including a 5-year-old little boy. They were all in their underwear because they were baking to death. And it all could be prevented if we secure the border. Secure the border saves lives.
Queríamos llegar a los Estados Unidos, ahora que Trump ganó, ahora no sabemos qué hacer.
No, ahorita creo que es mucho más complicado.
Pues no quiere a los latinos, no quiere a los mexicanos, y pues.
We see here that 300 plus were stopped with names matching known suspected terrorists on the watch list, 183,055 with criminal charges pending. Criminal convictions arrested by ICE, and 178,508 that were removed by ICE. So if that's how many are being stopped and caught, you got to wonder how many got away. And that's who's in the country. Where are these people now?
We have no idea. As far as the people, the gotaways, there's no footprint on these people, right? They weren't fingerprinted, they weren't vetted, there's no release documents. So these are people we're going to have a hard time finding, but we'll find them.
You recommended family separation.
I recommended zero tolerance.
How is this a politically driven thing? I don't understand.
It isn't. People say President Trump's policies are inhumane, they're racist, and it's just nothing further from the truth. I wake up every day pissed off with what this administration did to the most secure border in my lifetime. But thankfully, we got President Trump coming back, and we're going to secure the border once again and save lives.
The death of Rachel Morin a Maryland mother of 5 who was brutally and senselessly murdered, allegedly by an illegal immigrant, already wanted for murder in El Salvador, sparked a national outrage. Rachel's mother, Patty Morin, testified before Congress begging for tighter borders, saying the man who took her daughter's life was wanted for killing a woman in his home country when he walked into ours.
Describe for people your daughter, Rachel. What type of a woman was she? What do you want people to know about her?
Rachel was probably 5 feet. So she was this tiny little girl physically, but she was a big presence when she walked into the room. She was very lively. Her whole countenance just shined. She had a very bad stuttering problem. Like when she was a little girl, she asked, "Mom, why did God make me like this?" And I said, "He must think that you're very special because he gave you this gift." So she took it as like, oh, this is my superpower. When she got older, she was very outgoing, very passionate about everything she did. I was in Kentucky. My grandbaby had just passed away from sudden infant death syndrome. We learned that morning that she had gone missing the day before. And then a couple hours later, my son called me and he said, "Mom, there's someone here to speak to you." And it was the lead detective. He says, "Mrs. Morin, there's no easy way to tell you this, but we found your daughter's body." And sorry. You don't expect to hear that that news. Like you think, when we heard she was missing, we thought, oh, this isn't good because this is not like Rachel. But we weren't expecting them to find her so quickly and that she was dead and that she had only gone a few feet from her car. It was just so devastating. In the beginning of the investigation, they actually didn't give us any details at all because they wanted to keep the integrity of the case like very secure. And then we got a fuller picture when they filed court documents. And that's when we knew that she was raped. He had grabbed her off the trail that she was on, dragged her through the woods. They said that her body was blanketed in bruises. There was like 10 to 15 head gashes, and that she was strangled. And then they stuffed her into a sewer pipe for the trail. And that's where they had found her that day. It's been a little over a year, and I still get nightmares. It's like as a mother, you just feel so bad for your child, but you also feel so helpless. I can't describe it. It's just very hard.
Money lessons can be hard-earned, especially when it comes to making the most of finances. Keeping all savings in one place may seem smart, but it doesn't allow money to grow effectively. Well, today's episode sponsor, Acorns, is here to help. Acorns is a financial wellness app that makes it easy to start saving and investing for your future. You don't need to be an expert. Acorns will recommend a diversified portfolio that matches you and your money goals. You don't need to be rich. Acorns lets you get started with the spare money you've got right now, even if all you've got is spare change. It only takes 5 minutes to set up an account. So take that first small, simple step to getting your money back on track. Sign up now and join the over 13 million all-time customers who have already saved and invested over $22 billion with Acorns. Head to acorns.com/Dr. Phil or download the Acorns app to get started right now.
Paid non-client endorsement. Compensation provides incentive to positively promote Acorns. Tier 1 compensation provided. Investing involves risk. Acorns Advisors, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. View important disclosures at acorns.com/Dr. Phil.
Well, I'm here with the mother of Rachel Morin and her attorney, Randolph Rice. Now, Patty, I'm so glad to meet you, but terribly sorry for the circumstance. I wish we were here talking about a million other things besides this, but I'm glad that you're using her life and not letting it be a complete tragedy with no purpose.
Thank you for having me. I don't want her loss to be wasted.
Yeah.
And I don't want our pain to be wasted.
Yeah.
I really want to save lives.
And this has been a terrible ordeal for you, I know. And thank you so much for being here to support her. How long was your daughter missing before you found out that she had been brutally murdered?
She went missing on a Saturday,
Right.
August 5th. But I didn't find out until the next day, Sunday. Her boyfriend reported her missing in late evening, and they did a search the next day on the trail where she grew up, and we walked as a family for over 20 years.
Yeah, this was the Maw Paw Trail.
Yes.
In Bel Air, Maryland. And like you say, you guys grew up on that trail, right? You
Yeah.
walked there and
Yep.
as a family.
Yep, every day after dinner. It was a way to get all the energy out of my kids so I could put them to bed.
Right. And when you got the call, take me through that moment.
Yes, I was in Kentucky still. We had lost a grandbaby that week. And Saturday, we had the burial, the gravesite. And then Sunday, we were going to head back from Kentucky when my son called and he said, "Mom, there's somebody here that wants to speak to you." And we had heard that Rachel had been missing. And he said, "There's no easy way to tell you this." Sorry. We found your daughter's body. And you know, if you know Rachel, you know that she's very scheduled. And you know something is wrong if she's not coming home. But then to have them say that they found her body, you know that she's not there. It's just her body. Thank you, sir. It was probably the most devastating news that I've ever heard. I couldn't stand up. It was so much pain.
Your daughter Rachel had 5 children. How did you tell them that their mother had been killed?
While I was in Kentucky, it was one of my sons, her brother, and the father of one of her children. They were a part of the search for her. And so when they heard the news, the fathers told their children what had happened to their mom.
How did they take this?
Depending on their age, they're 8 to 18. They're a year older now. But some couldn't grasp it, and I think it's because of shock. They just couldn't accept the fact that she was gone. Others didn't want to think about what had happened to their mom. And Rachel has a daughter that's on the autism spectrum. And Rachel was a very good mother. She was very good, especially in knowing how to minister to that particular daughter, to make her feel loved and valued and understood. And her daughter kept saying, "Where's my mom? I want my best friend back." And trying to explain to her that mom can't come back. She couldn't comprehend it. I don't know if she still comprehends that mom's not coming back.
And did you take the opportunity to view the body?
I did. When I got back to Maryland, and they had kept the body for a couple of weeks to do whatever investigators needed to do. When it arrived at the funeral home, I went to look at the body to see if it would be presentable for the children to view it. We had a family-only funeral. We didn't invite public or anything. And so I can't tell you all the things, only just whatever has been made known publicly, because the case hasn't gone to trial yet. But I can tell you that the state's attorney says it's the most gruesomest crime that they have ever seen in Harford County in all these years. And I can attest to the fact that it truly was just a horrible, horrible crime. To see somebody that you love and to see what has happened to them and imagining what they've suffered. It's like so heartbreaking, especially if you're a mom, because, you know, when I found out that she was missing, mother's first instinct is to go run to your child and hold them, and then to comfort them, and then to see my daughter there, and to know that we weren't there. And then, you know, you run through your mind those scenarios. Well, if I was here, I could protect her, which we know that's probably not a likely thing. But so it was just really very hard to see her and to know what's actually happened to her.
You know, I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. I'm, of course, sorry that she went through that.
First, when we heard this, I thought maybe it might have been an acquaintance, or because she was very beautiful, maybe someone just stalked her. And then as time went on, they had found DNA that they took from the crime scene had matched DNA in LA. He had attacked a woman and her child, her 9-year-old child, in LA. And so they were able to get a video, but it was the back of his head. So it was really hard to try to find who he was. It's like 1 in 8 billion people on the earth. And so it was just hard. Where is he? And how come we haven't got him yet? Has he hurt somebody else? It's like those are all the kind of questions that ran through our heads. It was really, like truly, it was really a miracle of God.
Just one day after Rachel was found, the sheriff's office said a DNA sample was found at the crime scene and was matched to a man that was wanted for a home invasion and the assault of a 9-year-old girl in LA 5 months earlier.
A 9-year-old
correct?
Girl and a mom.
And
Yeah, I think it was like 2 weeks. They had gotten the DNA, ran it. It came back really quickly.
Yeah.
And it was just because of the crime itself. They wanted to find this person as soon as possible.
Right, because obviously this is somebody you don't want walking around, particularly the gruesome nature of the crime. And ultimately, they were able to identify him in Tulsa, Oklahoma, correct?
Yes.
Police in Tulsa, Oklahoma, assisted by our federal partners, located and arrested Rachel's murderer, Victor Antonio Martinez Hernandez. So far, we have learned that the suspect is a 23-year-old citizen of El Salvador who illegally crossed the border into the United States in February of 2023. It's my understanding that this suspect, this monster, fled to the United States illegally after committing the brutal murder of a young woman in El Salvador a month early in January of 2023. Once in our country, and likely emboldened by his anonymity, he brutally attacked a 9-year-old girl and her mother during a home invasion in March of 2023 in Los Angeles. And as everyone I believe is aware, that was our first DNA match linking Rachel's case to the Los Angeles case.
And what did you find out at that point? Who was this? Where did he come from? What did you learn?
It turned out that he was an illegal immigrant. He had come to the border 3 times, had been turned away by Border Patrol, and then the 4th time he was a got away. And the reason why he had come to America was because he's accused of committing a murder in his home country in El Salvador. So he was running from that murder when he came here.
Right, so he was suspected of a murder in his home country, which was El Salvador?
Correct.
And he came to our border, got away, and got into this country.
Correct.
And committed multiple crimes once he was here.
Yes.
At least alleged. He hasn't been convicted of these as yet, but he's been charged. And this is before murdering your daughter, which he's now charged with and is in jail, correct?
Yes, waiting trial.
From a legal standpoint, he's charged with first-degree murder at this point?
Correct. First-degree murder and first-degree rape, and then some lesser charges and a kidnapping charge as well.
Okay. And is this a strong case they have against this individual? Is he likely to go to trial? Are they likely to plead this out? What's likely to happen?
We really don't know right now. The public defender who represents him has been playing pretty close to the vest. We've had a couple of hearings. He doesn't speak English, so he hasn't said much on the record. They're not releasing a lot of information. But as a former prosecutor and as a defense attorney, I know that individuals, a lot of times when they're looking at life in prison without the possibility of parole, which is what he's looking at, a lot of times they like to roll the dice. And they say, you know what, I'm just going to try my luck and see what happens. And maybe I get lucky, a lesser offense, and I don't have to face that life without parole. So we don't know. We've got trial dates set next year for him, and we just have to wait. He has to make a decision as to what he wants to do.
You took this case on pro bono, right?
We did, yeah.
You had no idea it was going to turn into what it has.
Well, it's interesting. The Morins came to see us about a week after they found Rachel's body. And they all sat down in our conference room and they said, we need help. And I said, well, look, we've got DNA. We've got a doorbell camera that shows this suspect. They're going to catch this guy in no time, right? Weeks went on, nothing new. So we decided, let's start doing something proactive here to see if we can help the detectives. We started with digital campaigns across, because we knew he was in California and Maryland, where we were putting up digital campaigns in Spanish-speaking language because we knew he was an Hispanic male. We then sent flyers to 80,000 plus people in the neighborhood around the house where he committed the crime. We actually figured out where the house was based on Google Maps. We sent 80,000 people flyers out there with his picture, with the doorbell camera, and with Rachel's information as well. And we'd raise more money. We said, look, there's $35,000 on the table. Come to us, tell us his name, no questions asked, here's $35,000. Then we went a step further and we had Patty shoot a commercial that we started running later, right before he got caught, because we figured he was probably coming in to the southern border. It'd been going on too long. As attorneys, we thought, this isn't making sense that nobody knows this guy. So we shot a commercial with Patty and ran that along the southern border, as well as Los Angeles and Bel Air, pleading for somebody to come forward and identify this guy. And fortunately, the FBI and the Harford County Sheriff's Department were successful in using genealogy to identify him, his family, and that's what gave him up and caught him in Tulsa.
Mm-hmm. He was apprehended 3 times in 2023, right?
Yep.
And what happened when he was apprehended?
Nothing. They should have been following the DNA Fingerprint Act, and they should have been swabbing him, a $4 kit that takes 30 seconds, that they never did. They literally grabbed him and said, you shouldn't be here, and expelled him back to Mexico 3 times. He comes across the 4th time in February of 2023, goes to California and starts his crime spree in America.
And does he have known gang ties? What's his affiliation?
It's believed that he has gang ties. And then they also had the Interpol warrant out of El Salvador where he had killed this woman. Had they known that, had they stopped him and said, let's check this guy out. Let's see if he's got tattoos. Let's see if he's got gang affiliation. They would have stopped him, at least detained him. But they didn't do that. And that ultimately led to him coming in this country and causing just so much havoc.
It makes me very angry, and I'm very sad because I lost somebody very precious that didn't have to die. My grandchildren have lost a mother that didn't have to die. And Rachel didn't go out running that trail that day expecting to die. No one expects to walk down the street and they're walking to the end of their life. Nobody expects that. It was completely preventable. Nobody's doing anything to stop this.
$36 trillion. That is the U.S. debt, and it gets deeper and deeper by the day. Our debt has never been higher, nor have the stakes. The government is looking to slash the federal budget by $2 trillion, and no one knows what that will mean for your job, savings, and future. I've seen a lot in my time, and there's one thing I know for sure. You need to prepare before it's too late. I trust Preserve Gold to help protect my wealth, and I strongly urge you to do the same. They are the only precious metals firm I trust and recommend to my family, friends, and audience, and they have a special offer just for you. Text Dr. Phil to 50505 to get your free precious metals guide from Preserve Gold. With gold prices recently breaking records and analysts predicting this trend to continue throughout 2025, you cannot afford to wait. As a bonus, you can get up to $15,000 with a qualified purchase from Preserve Gold. So don't wait. Text Dr. Phil to 50505 today.
I think people, not politicians, going to make the change happen. It's our families, it's our moms, it's our children, it's our grandchildren, it's our wives, that we need to stand up and we need to tell the government as a family of Americans that this is not acceptable. No death by an illegal immigrant is acceptable. I couldn't be there for my daughter, but I don't want another mother to feel this pain that I feel. And I don't want another child to die. It's been over a year, and I still feel this tremendous, pain and sorrow. And I've had people that have lost children, and they tell me it never goes away. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I gonna live like this for the rest of my life? I don't want anyone else to feel this way. And I want children to feel safe to go to the playground or to walk with their mom and dad on the trail and ride their bikes and not have to live in fear. So that's why I'm doing this.
Patty, you appeared before a committee and testified before the Committee on Homeland Security, the hearing titled A Country Without Borders, how the Biden-Harris open borders policies have undermined our safety and security, which also featured testimony from retired U.S. Border Patrol agent, a California lawmaker, and an Arizona sheriff.
We need to close the borders. If they're coming over illegal, it's because they're hiding something. I just left the southern border where I spoke to Border Patrol, and they showed me their gunshot wounds. They told me their stories about how they suffered broken necks, broken backs, fractured skulls. It's a war zone there, and we need to close it. We need to put those policies back into place that kept our citizens safe. Thank you.
What was your message?
Well, my message at the time was that Americans are dying. And they're dying because we have open borders and we have unvetted people coming into our nation. But while I was sitting there, the thing that was interesting to me the most was the gentleman that was sitting next to me. He had a pile of identification from the illegal immigrants. This identification cards and papers were what these immigrants needed to move and migrate from their countries through Mexico to get to the American border. And they dumped all their paperwork and their IDs right at the Mexican side of the border and stepped into America. And once they stepped into America, they could create their own identity because they had no papers to prove who they were. And because there were so many hundreds of thousands coming over the border and not enough people to vet them, they would just say, what's your name? What country are you from? And they would put it into a computer, but they didn't have to verify. So people could come across the border, completely change their name, their date of birth, their country, create a whole new identity, have free access into our country, and then wait for a hearing, and most never show up for the hearing. So my message was, close the border. Americans are dying. Children are dying. 11, 12, 13-year-old children are dying. They're being raped and strangled and murdered. And it's happening in every state. We don't hear all the news that is going on in each individual state because either they haven't found the body yet or the person survived and is too ashamed to say what has happened to them. but it's happening in every state. It's a very dangerous policy to have open borders.
And you have said that Rachel's the American mom, not the only one in our cities that have been murdered.
This is a national issue, and it's an issue for our families. We're fighting for our families. I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. I mean, it's common sense. You don't go and open up your front door, your windows, and just let anybody from the street come and walk into your house. You protect your family. That's what the walls and the doors are for. And to just open the border and let literally 160 different countries enter our borders unvetted, fly them to the most remote places of the United States, and they don't even know who they are because they dump their IDs, and then they're escorted into the heartland of America where all these tragedies are happening.
What have you learned about violent crime committed by illegal immigrants crossing the border? Because you've done a study of this. I mean, you've really immersed yourself in this.
Yeah. What I found just locally was that a year before, there was another El Salvadorian that had murdered a woman, a 20-year-old woman, 15 minutes away from the town that Rachel lived in. Her name was Kayla. Tammy Nobles is her mom. And also, I had found that since I've been on TV and because I have spoken before the Judiciary Committee and Homeland Security, I have women come up to me all the time, especially in my hometown, and they will say to me, you know, a couple of weeks ago, I was crossing this little field to go to the store, and a person came up from behind me and put his arm around my neck and tried to drag me to the ground. She fought, ran to a store, called the police, so she survived. It turns out that this man had attacked 7 other women, but none of them, you don't hear that in the news because none of them have died. And now illegal immigrants, we have, it's almost 20 million. I know they say 11, but 11 is because that's what they've documented. There are so many immigrants that have come into the country that are either gotaways or they're just not documenting. They're just letting them come in. They're flying them straight from other countries into our country and then just let them go. So we have millions in America. They don't know where they are. They don't know who they are. And so how are we going to deport them if we don't know where to look for them or who they are? But because of it, crime is up anywhere between 37 to over 100% in just these last couple of years. And a lot of it is related to the uptick in immigration and folks coming into our country.
What's it been like for you to see your daughter's face become part of a political issue?
At first, I was really angry because I love my daughter. My daughter was, she was an awesome woman. We were opposites. I'm an introvert. She's an extreme extrovert. So sometimes we rubbed each other the wrong way. I have old ideas. She had new ideas, you know, as far as parenting and things like that. But it was a good, healthy relationship. I just loved her. And I didn't want her reduced to a name attached to a political banner, like for this, the left or to the right. I wanted people to see her for who she was, a very valuable person, because life is precious. We have homes, we have jobs, we have all those things, but all those things are temporal. The only thing that has real value in this life is the relationships that we have and the people that invest in us and we invest in them. And I didn't want to reduce her life to just a name or a picture. So at first I wanted to be very middle of the road, not choose a side as far as political is concerned. I just wanted to honor my daughter And I wanted to honor life. And I wanted people to see that each person here, that you have value for who you are. And that we as a nation should be protecting our neighbors. We shouldn't allow this to happen and just say, oh, it's not going to happen to me. There's 20 million people in our country. At some point, it's going to start happening to people. But at one point, I decided that there was only one candidate that actually cared enough about the issue to talk about it and to put the facts out there. And so that's why I accepted President Trump's invitation to go to the southern border in Arizona and to speak to the people there.
Well, you've been to the border in Arizona, and as have I.
Up! Dr. Bill, how are you?
Good to see you.
Glad you're back here. I want to start here. I think it's so important before we enter this building. This is our Border Operations Center. The border is dedicated to these fine professionals, both served in the Marine Corps. Chris is my deputy on the left, and you can see the story there.
This is your deputy here?
Yes, Dr. Phil. He's on my interdiction team for border crimes. He can tell you a story. We didn't think he was going to make it, Dr. Phil. That's how bad this was. His brother, Josh, who works for the United States Border Patrol, former Marine also, was up in these mountains right behind us over here, attacked by two migrants. They tried to get his gun. One round went off. The gun misfired. They took his knife and cut his throat. He fought him for 7 to 8 minutes before backup got there. And this is why we dedicated this building in honor of the law enforcement men and women. They both served their country. Now they're serving their communities for us here. And that's the kind of people that work in this center.
Two American heroes right there.
Exactly.
Were they apprehended?
They were apprehended. One, I don't believe, was charged. If he did it, he got no jail time. The other one got 7 years. 7 years trying to kill a federal agent? Are you kidding me? That's unheard of.
That's offensive.
It's an insult for what we're trying to do on this border.
Well, you've been to the border in Arizona, and as have I. What did you think about what you saw?
It was so interesting. It was so interesting to see the wall. It was interesting to see the parts that weren't finished and all the wasted material. It was interesting to see how the wall actually does work and that it is impenetrable, climbing over. But the thing that really impressed me the most was speaking to the Border Patrol agents and the local sheriff. And when I was there and I met these folks, they didn't know who I was until I got up to actually speak at the podium. And but they did tell their stories. They told about how, they were shot up, and like one guy said he was shot in the shoulder, but the bullet ran down his arm and out his hand. And they showed me the bullet wounds like in their ear. And they were just telling stories about things that are happening. It's a war zone down there. It's not this safe place. The people that are coming over the border, they're going to come over any way that they want. And they're criminals. They're violent. And these men and women, it's like a war zone, and they're like hardened soldiers. They love our country so much, and they want to protect the American people, and they want to protect our borders. And I just felt so honored to meet those men and women.
They're some of the most dedicated men and women I've ever met, and
yes.
they're underappreciated and overworked. That's for sure.
Yes.
And I'm proud to know them and talk to them myself. I want to thank you for coming here and sharing this story. Like I say, I'm sorry for the occasion to meet you, but it's so very important. And I hope you'll keep talking about this. And you are honoring your daughter, and
thank you.
I think it's important, and it is a bipartisan issue. This isn't a political party issue. This is a bipartisan issue in our country.
Yes.
And, Randolph, thank you so much for stepping up and helping them, because you can feel really lost in the machinery and bureaucracy of government. And thank you for helping them. It'll make a huge difference, I know.
Thank you.
We hope Patty's daughter Rachel's legacy will be that no other family has to go through this. We're praying for her and for her children and her family, who loves her very much.
I want her legacy to be that the whole world knows that Rachel was a woman that loved her family, her siblings, her children, and just like every other American family, she wanted to protect her family, and she wanted to have a future, and her future was taken away. If Rachel was here today and could speak from the other side, she would say, please do what we can to protect our families and our nation. Going to Capitol Hill, and I actually testified on 2 different committees. The thing that struck me the most was how divided our political system is, the right and the left, and how one is saying there is a problem and the other side is saying that no, there isn't a problem. And in the meantime, while they're bickering back and forth, people are dying. Like, children are dying. 11, 12, 13-year-old little girls are being tied up, raped, strangled, and thrown away. How is that okay? It doesn't matter if you're on the left or if you're on the right. If American children are dying and we have a way of fixing it, why aren't we fixing it?
I want to thank Randolph Rice and Patty Morin for sharing her story with us. We will support her as she continues her fight to make America safer in honor of her daughter, Rachel.